a private estate in North Seattle, 14 bedrooms, a panoramic view of Lake Washington, and 17 housekeepers gone, all in under 5 months. Some quit after a single day. Others didn't last until dinner. These weren't amateurs. They were professionals, some with decades of experience. But they all ran. From what? Or rather, from whom? 2 little girls, 8 years old, blonde, blue-eyed, and reportedly responsible for emotional breakdowns, sabotaged vehicles, and one unfortunate incident involving a live raccoon. No agency in the city would send staff anymore. Until one woman, with no degree, no resume, and no fear, showed up at the Langford residence and said, "I'll take the job." So, what happened when a pair of grieving twins met a woman who refused to leave? And what's the real reason they had chased every other adult away? This story might challenge your idea of what a child can become and what it really means to stay. If you've ever met someone who changed your life by refusing to give up on you, this story is for you. And if not, maybe it's time to believe someone like that still exists. Like, share, or comment below, because stories like this deserve to be heard. Mr. Maxwell Langford had built his fortune on code, data lines, systems, logic. Everything followed rules. Everything could be fixed. But that morning, he stood in the foyer of his lakefront mansion, helplessly holding a check and watching yet another housekeeper slam the door behind her. "I hope your next one brings holy water," she shouted, dragging a battered suitcase down the marble steps. "Because those girls? They're possessed." Max didn't say a word, just slowly tore the check from the carbon slip, folded it twice, and slipped it into his jacket. His silver cufflinks caught the light, but his eyes were dull. He turned, and there they were, Harper and Hadley, standing in matching dresses at the top of the staircase like something out of a cereal commercial. Their golden curls bounced as they tilted their heads. "Bye, Miss Karen," Harper called sweetly. "We'll miss you so much," Hadley added, in a voice that dripped sugar and something else. Max rubbed the back of his neck and muttered, "That makes 17. "They never last," Harper said, descending like royalty. "Because they never understand us," Hadley chimed in. Max sighed. "You two sabotaged her car. You covered her toothbrush in hot sauce. You put a squirrel in her laundry bag." She laughed. Harper said, "Until it bit her." Max snapped. For a moment, the marble foyer echoed with silence. Harper and Hadley stood in innocent poses. But Max had learned long ago, stillness was their most dangerous mask. He dropped to one knee. "Girls, I know you miss your mother. I do too, but terrorizing people won't bring her back." "We don't talk about Mom," Harper said, her face stiff. "Never," Hadley whispered. And that was the real problem. They didn't talk. They didn't cry. They planned. And now, they had nothing standing between them and whatever they were planning next. 2 hours after the last housekeeper walked out, Maxwell Langford sat alone in his office, staring at the security footage on his monitor. Hadley had rigged the upstairs hallway to play violin screeches at random intervals. Harper had duct-taped the bathroom sink so it sprayed upward. There was a raccoon in the laundry room. Again, Max pressed his fingers against his temples. That's when his assistant, Grace, knocked. "She's here," Grace said. "Boo." Max didn't look up. Of course she did. Evelyn Carter didn't walk into the Langford estate like she was applying for a job. She walked in like she'd lived there once and remembered every corner. 57 years old, worn denim jacket, gray streaks through tightly coiled hair pulled into a bun. No clipboard, no smile, just eyes that missed nothing. "You must be Mr. Langford," she said. "You must be persistent." He replied, gesturing toward the kitchen. They sat. She didn't ask for coffee. She poured herself water and sipped slowly. He tried to begin with small talk. She didn't respond. "I've read your file," Max finally said. "There is no file," Evelyn replied, eyes steady. "Exactly." He hesitated. "You're aware this position has been difficult." She leaned forward. "You mean 17 trained professionals ran away crying from a pair of 8-year-olds? "Yes, I've heard." "You're still interested?" "That depends." "On what?" "3 things." Max raised a brow. "First, I have full authority when I'm here. No stepping in. No undoing my rules. No exceptions. Much nodded. Fine. Second, I need full access. That includes the upstairs guest wing. The room with the locked door. His jaw tightened. That was my wife's room. I know. The girls haven't entered since the accident, have they? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I'm not asking you to go in. But I will. That's non-negotiable. He looked down at the table. Okay. Third, she said, they go to therapy. And so do you. Max looked up sharply. Excuse me? You're the father. You can't help them heal if you're bleeding in silence. He let out a humorless laugh. You're not a psychologist. No, but I've raised 5 of my own. Buried 1. Helped raise 3 grandchildren after that. I've seen what silence does. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The house creaked. A dog barked somewhere down the hill. Max finally leaned back and folded his arms. And if I say no, Evelyn stood up. Then you'll be looking for a housekeeper number 18, 19, and 20. And eventually, 2 daughters you don't recognize. She turned toward the door. Wait, he said. She paused, hand on the handle. When can you start? Tomorrow. 7 a.m., tell the girls this one's different. Tell them I'm not going anywhere. She opened the door and left without waiting for his reply. Max sat in silence for several seconds before finally saying aloud to no one, God help us all. By 7 a.m. sharp, Evelyn Carter was back at the Langford estate. This time, she wore sneakers, black slacks, and a worn green hoodie that read Tacoma Community Food Bank, Volunteer of the Year, 2013. She brought no suitcase, no notebooks, no distractions. Just herself and a quiet determination that filled the hallway before she even rang the bell. Max opened the door, blinking twice. You're early. I'm always on time, she said, stepping in without waiting for permission. Where are they? He gestured toward the stairs. Still asleep, I think. Though with them. That could mean anything. Upstairs, Harper and Hadley weren't sleeping. They were kneeling on the bedroom floor, whispering over a spiral notebook titled Operation Vanish. The plan was bold. Make Evelyn believe the house was haunted. We moved the mirror in the hallway. 1 inch every hour, Harper whispered. I already set the motion detector to trigger wind sound from a speaker in the attic, Hadley replied. And the doll? It's in the library. On the 3rd shelf. Face turned to the wall. Just creepy enough. Perfect, Harper grinned. Downstairs, Evelyn walked through the kitchen without hesitation. She opened the fridge. 3 types of milk, none of them fresh. She found a lemon in the drawer and tossed it gently into the trash. Then she pulled out a pan, cracked 3 eggs, and started making breakfast. Calm, focused, unimpressed. At exactly 7:45, Hadley tiptoed down the hall to check on the mirror. It hadn't moved, because Evelyn had already reset it. 5 times. Without a word. By 8:10, the twins entered the dining room in matching dresses and perfect ponytails, their faces composed with unsettling precision. Good morning, Miss Carter, said Harper, all sugar. Smells edible, said Hadley, sliding into her chair. Evelyn plated pancakes, fruit, and eggs. Sat down. Began eating. You didn't ask what we want, said Harper. I don't take breakfast orders, Evelyn replied. The girls exchanged a quick glance. Harper reached for the maple syrup. It was empty. Hadley tried the salt shaker. Sugar. All swapped. Deliberate. You might want to check the milk. Harper murmured. Evelyn sipped black coffee. I don't drink milk. Silence. Hadley poked her eggs suspiciously. Where's the help button? She asked. No buttons, Evelyn said. Just me. And I don't leave. Harper narrowed her eyes. We'll see. Evelyn smiled without showing teeth. Yes, we will. The twins had never failed to unsettle someone by noon. It was a record they held with pride. By 10:30 that morning, Evelyn Carter was supposed to have slipped, snapped, or at least snapped back. Instead, she was folding linens in the laundry room and humming something soft and low, a hymn neither girl recognized. Upstairs, Harper watched from the railing. She's not reacting. Hadley paced behind her, clutching a walkie-talkie they'd previously used to simulate ghost voices. She reset the pantry traps. She unplugged the hallway speaker. She fixed the motion mirror. She even refolded the towels. We nodded. She's cheerful, Harper hissed. She's scary, Hadley corrected. By lunch, they escalated. In the guest bathroom, Hadley unscrewed the top of the hand soap and filled it with ketchup. Harper sprinkled glitter under the welcome mat. They rewired the doorbell to play an off-key music box melody. And, for their masterpiece, they set up the cold spot, a standing fan hidden behind a bookshelf that would send chills directly down Evelyn's spine as she walked by the main hallway. At precisely 7 p.m., Evelyn walked past the bookshelf. She stopped, turned her head, then reached behind and switched off the fan. Electric bills are high enough, girls. And kept walking. No scream, no yelp, not even a muttered curse. In the kitchen, she unpacked a lunch she brought from home. Cucumber salad, a small thermos of soup, 2 tangerines. She sliced one in half and placed it on a plate beside 2 extra forks. The girls appeared in the doorway. Tangerines? Harper said, suspicious. Are you bribing us? No, Evelyn replied. I just don't like eating alone. Hadley tilted her head. You're not scared of us? Evelyn looked up. You're 8. That's not an answer, Harper said. It's the only one you're getting. The girls sat reluctantly. They didn't touch the fruit. You know, Evelyn said between bites, I once babysat a boy who tried to convince me he had a twin that lived in the attic. He wore a second set of clothes and everything. Had names, voices, dialogue. Took me 2 days to catch him talking to himself in the mirror. Harper blinked. And I told him if he had a twin, the attic better be clean next time I checked. It was silence. She's bluffing, Hadley whispered. She's not, Harper whispered back. She's dangerous. Not dangerous, Evelyn said, calmly peeling the second tangerine. Just not leaving. By mid-afternoon, the twins were rattled, but not ready to quit. That wasn't their style. If Evelyn Carter wasn't going to scream, flinch, or run, then maybe she could be haunted. They waited until just before dusk. That golden hour when shadows stretched long across the floorboards and the house creaked in ways it didn't at noon. Harper slipped quietly into the library, her hands wrapped around a porcelain doll with cracked cheeks and glassy blue eyes. Their mother's favorite, the one she used to place in the bay window every December. She set it carefully on Evelyn's chair, facing the doorway, arms folded, eyes unblinking. Then she tiptoed away. Downstairs, Evelyn was repairing a crooked kitchen cabinet door. A drill, a small flashlight, a cloth beneath her knees. No music, no humming this time. Hadley watched from behind the fridge, fingers tight around the walkie-talkie. 3, 2, 1. Evelyn walked into the library, stopped, looked at the doll. She walked over, picked it up gently, and turned it toward the window, just like someone once had. Then she whispered, so low the twins could barely hear it from the hallway, still watching, and set the doll on a shelf. Harper gasped. She talked to it. She didn't even ask who put it there, Hadley whispered. She knew. They regrouped in Harper's room. She's either psychic, Hadley said, or she knew Mom. She doesn't know Mom. Harper snapped. No one knows her like we did. She said the doll's still watching. That's something Mom used to say. Silence. Fine, Harper matted. Phase 2. That night, as Evelyn settled onto the living room couch with a book, the whispering began. It started faint, just above the hum of the refrigerator. Evelyn, the voice floated down from the top of the stairs. Evelyn didn't look up. She turned the page. A second whisper came, closer this time, from the hallway behind her. Evelyn. She closed the book. Harper, she said, not raising her voice. If you're going to pretend to be a ghost, don't wear coconut perfume. I could smell you from the hallway. The whisper stopped. Footsteps retreated. Carpet. Wood. Silence. A beat passed. Then, from the darkened staircase. You believe in ghosts? Harper asked softly. Evelyn looked toward the voice, her expression unreadable. I believe in memories, she said. And in people we miss so much, we start pretending they're still here. No reply. But real ghosts, she added, almost smiling. They don't whisper your name. They whisper your guilt. The silence that followed wasn't scared. It was still. That night, The rain came hard, slanting against the windows like fingernails across glass. The kind of rain that made silence feel louder. Upstairs, Evelyn laid a folded blanket at the foot of the guest bed, turned off the lamp, and paused by the door. Down the hall, muffled voices echoed from the twins' room. Then nothing. She didn't go in. She didn't need to. Not yet. At 3:14 a.m., a scream tore through the house. Not a loud one, but sharp, panicked. Evelyn was already halfway down the hall before her feet hit the rug. She opened the door gently. Hadley sat up in bed, trembling, her arms clenched around her knees. The power had gone out 5 minutes earlier. Only the lightning lit the room now, casting flickers of shadows across the walls. Harper stood near the closet, frozen. She was here, Hadley whispered. Who? Evelyn asked, stepping in. Mama. Harper's voice cracked. We saw her. By the window. Same dress. Same face. Evelyn didn't flinch. Sometimes, she said, kneeling beside the bed, we don't know what hurts more, missing someone or the fear they're truly gone. Neither twin spoke. Evelyn reached for Hadley's hand. It was ice cold. My youngest, she murmured, used to sleep with his baseball glove when storms hit. Swore it made him braver. Did it? Hadley asked, her voice barely there. No, but he believed it did. And sometimes that's enough. Harper looked away. Her eyes glistened. Evelyn pulled the blanket higher over Hadley's shoulders. You know what I used to do when I missed someone I lost? What? Harper asked. I'd tell them a story. Out loud. Like they were still listening. That's dumb. Harper snapped, but there was no weight behind it. Evelyn stood. Then don't tell a story. Just listen. Because sometimes, even silence carries a voice. She turned to leave, but Hadley's voice stopped her. Will you stay just until it stops? Evelyn nodded, pulled the chair to the side of the bed, and sat down. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside, for the first time in years, the house was quiet. Not because of fear, but because someone had decided to stay. The morning after the storm, the house felt different. Not quieter, just softer. The kind of softness that comes after something breaks but doesn't shatter. The twins didn't slam their doors that day. Didn't trip the kitchen faucet. Didn't whisper across the baby monitor pretending to be the dead. Evelyn noticed it before breakfast. The doll was back in its place on the shelf. The motion fan in the hallway was gone. And someone had folded the laundry she left in the basket, badly, but still. She didn't mention it. By noon, Max returned home early from a meeting, briefcase still in hand. He stepped into the foyer and heard laughter. Actual laughter. Light. Tentative. Coming from the den. He dropped the briefcase on the bench and walked slowly, like he might scare it away. In the den, Hadley sat cross-legged on the floor, tapping an empty yogurt cup with a spoon. Harper leaned against the couch, eyes on Evelyn, who sat across from them holding a photo album in her lap. This was your mom at 17, Evelyn said, turning the page. Harper blinked. She was in a band? Drums, Evelyn nodded. Terrible at it. Loud. Unapologetic. Hadley giggled. That's so her. Muck Stepton, startled. Where did you get that? I asked Grace to bring it from the attic, Evelyn replied, without looking up. You didn't have permission, he said, his voice sharp. I didn't need it, she replied. They did. The girls fell quiet. Max looked at them, then at the album, then sat down slowly on the edge of the couch. I didn't know you remembered her like that, he said softly. Harper didn't look at him. We thought we weren't allowed to. Muck Schwalodhart. That was never true. Hadley whispered. We thought it was our fault. That night, when she left for ice cream, we were screaming at her. Max's eyes widened. Girls. Evelyn closed the album. They've been carrying that for 2 years, Max. It's time someone told them the truth. Max leaned forward, elbows on his knees. It wasn't your fault. It was a drunk driver. That's the only reason she didn't come home. Harper wiped her eyes. But we yelled at her. She yelled too, Max said. She always yelled when she cared. The girls broke then. Not like broken glass. Like a storm finally leaving. Evelyn stood quietly and walked out, leaving the 3 of them there, father and daughters, finally mourning the same person at the same time. It was Evelyn's idea. Just one dinner, she said that Friday afternoon. Hands in her apron pockets. Eyes on Max, no phones. No te ve. Just the four of you and her. Max frowned. Evelyn nodded toward the upstairs wing. A chair. A plate. Light a candle. Let the girls remember her in the way they choose. He didn't answer right away. Just stared out the window, where the girls were raking leaves together for the first time in years. No instructions. No bribery. That evening, the dining room looked different. The table was set for 4. 3 occupied seats. 1 left empty. A pale pink candle flickered in the 4th spot, next to a worn-out music box that Harper had insisted on retrieving from the attic. The same one their mother used to wind every Sunday night. Harper poured water into the empty glass herself. Hadley laid out a folded napkin, smoothing it twice with shaky fingers. Max sat silently, eyes fixed on the flame. Evelyn brought in roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Comfort food. Nothing fancy. She didn't sit. She stood back, watching. Harper was the first to speak. Mom used to burn the rolls. Hadley nodded. And blamed Dad. Max smiled faintly, and I always took the blame. She said if you couldn't cook, at least you could act, Harper added, giggling. Evelyn returned with a bowl of over-toasted dinner rolls. Silence. Then laughter. Real, belly-deep laughter that hadn't been heard in that room in years. Halfway through the meal, Harper turned toward the empty chair. I remember when she danced with us in this room, to that awful 80s song she loved. Hadley whispered. She said this was her favorite room in the house. Max closed his eyes. Because we were all together here. They fell quiet again. Then Evelyn spoke softly. She's not gone. Not from here. Not tonight. Harper reached out and touched the candle's base. Do you think she knows? She always knew, Max said, even when I didn't. And for the first time, no one flinched when a music box clicked open and played its off-key tune. They listened until it stopped, until the last note faded, until the silence that followed didn't feel like absence, but presence. The next Saturday morning, Evelyn walked into the kitchen like any other day, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled, grocery list half written on a napkin. But something was off. The house was too quiet. No cereal bowls, no cartoons humming in the background, just stillness. She checked the den. Empty. The dining room? Spotless. Even the backyard was calm, leaves untouched since yesterday. Girls, she called. No answer. Then, from the hallway, a faint rustle, like paper brushing against tile. She followed it to the sunroom, and there it was, a small table draped with a blue cloth, paper streamers hanging crookedly from the ceiling fan, a banner made from construction paper and glitter glue that read, "Happy Arrival Day, Miss Evelyn." Harper peeked from behind the curtain. She found it. Hadley popped up beside her, grinning. You said you didn't have a birthday this month, so we made one up. Evelyn blinked, speechless. We figured, Harper shrugged, since you never left, this is kind of like your first real day here. Right? On the table sat a lopsided chocolate cake, slightly burned on one side, candles stuck in at odd angles. Next to it, a photo of the 3 of them from last week's library trip, already in a frame. We didn't know what to get you, Hadley said, so we made stuff. Harper handed her a folded envelope. Inside, a hand-drawn coupon book. 1 free day off. 1 hug without asking. 1 promise we won't cry to get out of therapy. Evelyn laughed. Too hard, too fast. Then stopped, because her eyes had welled up without warning. Why today? She finally whispered. Harper looked at her like it was obvious. Because you stayed, and nobody else ever did, Hadley added. Evelyn stepped closer to the table, touched the corner of the cake, then looked at both girls. You too, she said quietly, or something else. We know, they said in unison. She leaned down and hugged them both, long and tight, then whispered, You didn't just make my day, you gave me a home. And as the candles flickered in the soft morning light, Evelyn Carter, woman who had buried a son, lived alone for years, and arrived with nothing but an apron and resolve. Let herself believe something rare. That maybe she wasn't the one who saved them. Maybe, just maybe, they saved each other. 5 years later, the school auditorium buzzed with quiet chatter. Parents shuffled into folding chairs. Teachers flipped through clipboards. On stage, A projector screen displayed the title of the final student presentation, Heroes Who Changed Our Lives. Then came a hush. Lights dimmed, and from behind the curtain, two young girls stepped forward, now 13, taller, steadier, still matching, but no longer hiding behind the symmetry. Harper cleared her throat. Most people think heroes wear uniforms. Hadley continued, or save lives with superpowers. But sometimes, heroes wear sneakers, carry grocery bags, and show up when everyone else walks away. A photo flashed behind them. Evelyn Carter in the Langford kitchen, her hands covered in flour, laughing. Harper spoke again. 5 years ago, we tried to scare her off. We made up ghosts, broke things, lied. Hadley added, and she made pancakes. The crowd chuckled softly. She didn't yell. She didn't run. She stayed. More photos followed. Evelyn reading books. Evelyn holding umbrellas over the girls in a storm. Evelyn dancing with them in the living room in mismatched socks. She taught us that grief isn't something you get over. Harper said, it's something you carry with love. She made space for our mother's memory. And then, she made space for herself. The final slide appeared. The four of them, Evelyn, Max, Harper, Hadley, sitting together at last year's Thanksgiving, all smiling. She didn't replace anyone, Hadley said. She just refused to leave. The room stood in applause before the girls could even finish. In the front row, Evelyn wiped her cheeks and smiled. Because family doesn't always arrive when you're ready. Sometimes, it shows up when you need it most. And stays. If someone in your life has ever stayed when they didn't have to, tag them, thank them, and maybe become that person for someone else.